The wind blew dust across the broken mining fields of Zeroth 9, a forgotten colony deep in the outer rim. The sky above was always gray, and the sun could barely shine through the heavy clouds of smoke. Once, this world had rich minerals. Now, only the slavers remained, working the mines with stolen lives. Inside the tunnels, deep underground, Thessa moved like a shadow. Her skin was once a soft silver blue, but now it was coated in dirt and scars. Her hair, long and tangled, hung over, her face like a curtain. Her hands were cracked and bleeding from the sharp tools she used every day. She was just one of many alien slaves, beaten, starved, and forgotten. She did not remember what her home looked like. She did not remember her parents' faces. All she remembered was being taken as a child and told again and again, "You are worthless. You belong to us." Now, years later, she believed it. Every day she whispered the same words to herself like a prayer. "I'm filthy. I'm nothing. I'm not real." And yet, somewhere deep inside her, a small spark still lived. It was weak, almost dead, but it had not gone out. Far above the planet, a small stealth ship appeared. It was silent, black like the void, and fast. Inside was Commander Elias Ward, a human from Earth. He and his team were on a secret mission, one of many, rescuing slaves from forgotten places. The galaxy had grown used to slavery. Many races ignored it. But not humans. Not Elias. Elias was tall, with a calm voice and sharp eyes. His armor was marked with scars, just like his soul. He had seen too much pain, but he had not lost hope. They landed far from the main slaver outpost. Quiet. Careful. The team spread out, searching for signs of life. Elias walked alone toward the edge of a collapsed mine entrance. His motion scanner beeped. There was someone inside. In the dark, Thessa heard something new. Soft steps. Not the heavy boots of slavers. Not the growling voices of guards. She hid behind a metal wall, shaking. Her eyes widened as a figure came through the shadows. A human? She had only heard of them in whispers. Rumors among the other slaves. Some said they were cruel. Others said they were angels. The man moved slowly. He knelt near her hiding place. "It's okay," Elias said gently. "I'm not here to hurt you." Thessa didn't speak. She curled into herself, whispering again. "I'm worthless. I'm filthy." Elias paused. He heard the words. He stepped closer, not rushing. He set down his weapon and removed his helmet. She saw his face. Calm, kind, tired. "No," he said softly. "You are not worthless. You are someone who matters." Thessa looked up. No one had said that to her. Not once. Her lips trembled. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't know. "Why?" Elias reached out his hand. Slowly. Carefully. Thessa stared at it. Her hands were dirty and bleeding. She didn't want to touch him. She was too ashamed, but Elias didn't move away. "Let's get you out of here," he said. Thessa's hand shook as she placed it in his, and for the first time in many years, she stood up. Outside, gunfire echoed through the mining camp. Elias's team had been found. Red lasers flashed through the air as drones and guards fired. Elias held Thessa's hand tightly and ran through the dust with her. "Stay close," he shouted. Thessa was weak and slow, but she pushed herself. For some reason, she didn't want to let go of him. They reached a group of other survivors, alien children and workers. One child fell and screamed. Thessa stopped, turned back, and lifted him into her arms. The others yelled for her to keep going, but she didn't listen. She ran back to Elias with the child. He looked at her with surprise and nodded. "Good work," he said. "You're braver than most." Her heart jumped. No one had ever praised her before. They reached the extraction point, where a human dropship waited behind rocks. A soldier waved them in. Thessa turned back for a moment and looked at the mine. The place where she lost her past, the place that stole her name, her voice, her worth, and she let it go. As the dropship lifted into the sky, Thessa sat beside Elias. Her hands still shook, but her heart beat with something new. Hope. The ship rose through the gray sky. Below them, the slaver camp burned. One less hole in the galaxy. One more soul saved. Thessa leaned against the wall, tired. She whispered again, but this time her words were different. Maybe I'm not nothing. Elias, sitting beside her, looked at her and smiled. You were never nothing. And for the first time, Thessa believed it might be true. The human ship flew high above the clouds, leaving the ruined mining world behind. Inside the ship, Thessa sat quietly in a corner, her back resting against the cold wall. The soft hum of the engine was the only sound she heard. She still held. Her hands close to her chest, fingers curled, afraid to touch anything. Even though she was no longer in chains, her heart still felt heavy. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the dark tunnels, heard the slavers' angry voices, smelled the dust and pain. But this time, she also saw something new. Commander Elias Ward, the human who had reached for her in the darkness. Elias moved through the ship, checking on the other rescued aliens. Some were injured, others were scared. He stopped beside a young alien girl with bruises on her face. He smiled gently and handed her a protein bar. You're safe now, he said. We'll take care of you. The girl didn't speak, but she took the food and gave a small nod. Then Elias walked to Thessa. She looked up at him, nervous. You're doing well, he said. We'll reach the base in a few hours. You'll have clean clothes and a place to rest. Thessa hesitated, then asked softly, Why do you help us? Elias sat beside her. Because no one else will, he said. And because you deserve better. Thessa looked down at her hands, still covered in dirt and small cuts. I don't know how to be anything else. You'll learn, Elias said. You've already taken the first step. Hours later, the ship landed on Horizon Base, a small human outpost hidden on a green moon. Soldiers, medics, and workers greeted them. Some aliens flinched at the sudden movement, but the humans were careful. They gave blankets, water, and quiet. Smiles. Thessa followed Elias into the medical area. A nurse gently cleaned her hands and gave her a clean gray jumpsuit. For the first time in many years, she saw her reflection in a mirror. She barely recognized herself. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now held a small flame. In the following days, Thessa learned the rhythms of life at the base. The rescued aliens stayed together in small dorm rooms. They ate in the mess hall, rested in warm beds, and slowly began to speak again. Thessa still woke up from nightmares, but she no longer screamed. Instead, she would sit by the window and watch the stars, thinking of the sky instead of the tunnels. She noticed other aliens healing too. The young boy she had carried from the mine laughed for the first time. A group of older workers helped clean the garden. A tall, quiet alien girl sang softly when she thought no one was listening. One evening, Elias invited Thessa to walk through the base with him. You've been helping others, he said. You talk to the new arrivals. You calm them. Thessa blinked. I didn't mean to. That's what makes it special, Elias said. You understand them. They walked in silence for a moment. The stars shone above, and the air smelled clean. I still feel dirty, Thessa whispered. Inside, even now. Elias stopped and looked at her. You were treated like trash for a long time, but that's not who you are. You didn't choose that life. And now, you're free. She looked up at him. I don't feel free. You will, he said. One day at a time. Then, a message came through the base's main comms system. A hidden slaver transport ship had been spotted near another mining world, Varrock Station. It was a moving prison with hundreds of captives. Elias knew he had to act fast. If the ship disappeared again, they might never find it. "We're putting together a small rescue team," he told his officers. "Silent entry, fast extraction. We can't bring warships. Too much risk. We go in, grab the prisoners, and get out." Thessa overheard this as she passed by the meeting room. Her heart beat faster. She remembered the pain, the cages, the helpless eyes. Later, she found Elias. "In the hangar. Take me with you," she said. Elias frowned. "No, you're still recovering." "I know how they think," she said firmly. "I know how they hide people. I can help." Elias looked into her eyes. She wasn't the broken girl from the tunnel anymore. There was fire in her now. He sighed. "You'll stay close to me. And you follow my orders." Thessa nodded. The mission started 2 days later. A small stealth ship left Horizon Base and headed toward Varrock Station. On board were Elias, Thessa, and 5 other human soldiers, strong, silent, and ready. Thessa wore light armor and carried a stun pistol. It felt strange, but also right. As they approached the station, Elias pointed at the screens. "Slaver patrols are moving around the edge. Their sensors are weak in the back dock area." "That's where we go in?" They landed quietly, using a signal jammer to block alarms. The team moved through the cold metal halls. Thessa's heart pounded. Every step brought back memories. The smell, the sound of chains. But she kept going. Inside one of the lower chambers, they found a locked door. Behind it, faint voices cried. Elias and another soldier worked fast, unlocking the panel. The door opened, and inside were dozens of prisoners. Some were children, others were old. All were thin and afraid. Thessa stepped forward slowly. The captives backed away. "It's okay," she said, her voice shaking. "We're here to help. You're free now." One girl whispered, "Are you real?" Thessa knelt and gently touched her hand. "Yes, I was like you once, but now I'm free. And you will be too." The team guided the prisoners through the halls, but suddenly, alarms rang out. "They found us!" one soldier shouted. Guards rushed in from both sides, firing red blasts. The humans returned fire. Elias pushed Thessa behind cover. "Stay down!" he yelled. But Thessa saw one of the children trip. A slaver raised his weapon, aiming. Without thinking, Thessa ran forward, firing her stun pistol. The blast hit the guard, who dropped instantly. She grabbed the child and pulled him to safety. Elias looked at her with shock and pride. "You're part of the team now," he said. The ship lifted off with all the prisoners inside. A few humans had minor injuries, but everyone was alive. The rescued aliens sat quietly, unsure of what would come next. Thessa walked down the aisle and checked on each one. She smiled gently, gave water, held hands, and then she sat beside Elias. "I was afraid," she admitted, "but I wasn't alone." "You were brave," Elias said. "You helped save them." Thessa looked out the window as the stars passed by. Her heart still ached, but now it also felt stronger, and for the first time in her life, she felt proud. The mission to Varrock Station was over. The slaver ship had been captured. All the prisoners were safe. But for Thessa, something else had changed. She had walked through fire and survived. She had faced her fear, helped rescue the helpless, and even saved a child. Now she was back at Horizon Base, standing in the quiet garden under a warm sun. The air smelled like flowers and fresh soil. It was peaceful, nothing like the cold tunnels she had once known. She knelt beside a small plant, bed, and ran her fingers through the dirt. This dirt was different. It didn't feel like chains. It felt clean. Inside the medical center, the rescued captives were healing too. Humans gave them gentle care, food, and soft beds. They were used to being ignored, But here, everyone was treated like they mattered. Tessa had started helping the human doctors. She gave water to patients, sat beside them when they cried, held their hands when nightmares came. She didn't know how to heal bodies, but she could comfort hearts. She remembered what it felt like to be in the dark, to feel nothing but fear. That's why she understood them. One morning, Commander Elias Ward found Tessa in the training room. She was practicing hand-to-hand moves with one of the human soldiers. Her movements were slow but steady. She was learning how to fight, not as a slave trying to survive, but as a free soul choosing strength. Elias watched with a proud smile. "You've been busy," he said after the lesson. Tessa wiped sweat from her forehead and nodded. "I don't want to be afraid anymore." "You're doing more than that," Elias said. "You're becoming a leader." Tessa frowned. "I don't know how to lead." "You already are," he said. "You helped those prisoners. They listen to you." She looked away, unsure. "I still hear the voice," she whispered. "The one that tells me I'm nothing, that I'm filthy." Elias gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "That voice is wrong. Every time you help someone, you prove it." Later that day, a group of rescued aliens sat in a quiet room. They were all different, small, tall, furred, scaled, but they had one thing in common: pain. Tessa stood before them, holding a small data pad. "I was like you," she began. Her voice was soft but steady. "I thought I didn't matter, that I was just a tool, something broken." They listened. Some lowered their eyes. Some had tears. "But someone saw me," she continued. "A human. He lifted me from the dirt and told me I was precious." She paused, then smiled. "And now, I want to tell you the same." A quiet voice spoke from the crowd. "How do you stop the pain?" Tessa stepped down and sat beside the one who asked. "You don't stop it right away," she said. "You live with it and grow stronger, one day at a time." That evening, music played in the main hall. The humans held a small celebration for the successful rescue mission. There were lights, food, and laughter. Tessa stood near the wall, watching. She had never seen a celebration before. The idea of joy felt strange, but beautiful. Elias found her and offered her a small drink. "Try it," he said. She took a sip and smiled. It was sweet and fizzy. "Thank you," she said, "for all of this." "You earned it," Elias replied. Tessa looked at the dancing crowd. A few rescued aliens had joined in, shy but smiling. "I never thought I'd see a day like this," she said. "You made it here," Elias said. "That means you can go even farther." The next day, a new transport ship arrived. More rescued aliens were brought in from another base. Tessa stood at the gate watching as scared faces stepped off the ship. Among them was a young girl, thin, silent, and shaking. Tessa walked up to her and knelt down. "It's okay," she said. "You're safe now." The girl didn't respond. She just stared at Tessa with wide, frightened eyes. Tessa took off her necklace, a simple string with a small stone, and handed it to the girl. "This helped me feel strong," she said. "Now it's yours." The girl clutched it tightly. A tear rolled down her cheek. Weeks passed. The base grew busier. More survivors arrived. More stories were shared. The galaxy still had darkness, but here, at Horizon Base, there was light. Tessa continued her work. She trained with soldiers, helped in the clinic, and spoke to groups of survivors. She still had bad dreams, still doubted herself at times, but each day she grew stronger. She even started learning to fly a small shuttle, guided by a human pilot named Terra. Tessa was a quick learner, and soon she was flying around the moon. "You've got good hands," Terra joked. "You might be a pilot yet." Tessa laughed. a sound that had once been lost, now slowly returning. One night, as the stars lit up the sky, Thessa sat with Elias on a bench outside the command tower. They watched the moonlight reflect on the lake nearby. "I've seen things I can't forget," Thessa said. "But now, I'm starting to remember new things too. Good things." Elias nodded. "That's healing." She looked at him. "What made you start rescuing people?" He paused. "I saw what slavery did to my friends. On a mission long ago, we failed to save a camp. I still remember their faces. I promised I'd never turn away again." Thessa nodded slowly. "You didn't turn away from me." "No," he said, "because you were worth saving." Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were not from pain. "Thank you, Elias," she whispered. He smiled. "Any time, Thessa." A few days later, an emergency call came in. Another mining world had sent a weak distress signal. It was far, dangerous, and likely a trap. But there might be more slaves. Elias prepared for another mission. Thessa came to him, dressed in her armor. "I want to go," she said. He looked at her. "I won't stop you," he said. "But are you sure?" She nodded. "I want to be the hand that reaches out, like you were for me." Elias nodded. "Then let's bring them home." They walked to the ship together, two fighters from different worlds, united by purpose. And as the engines roared to life, Thessa whispered to herself, not in fear, but with hope. "I'm not worthless. I'm not filthy. I'm free." The ship glided silently through the blackness of space. Commander Elias Ward sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes sharp on the glowing instruments. Beside him, Thessa watched the stars blur past, her heart steady but full of quiet tension. They were headed to a place darker than anything she had ever known, a hidden slaver world called Korath Prime. This was no small mining colony. It was a fortress, a prison, a shadow in the galaxy where thousands of aliens suffered in silence. The mission was dangerous. The slavers here were ruthless, and the guards were many, but Thessa no longer felt like a frightened child in the dark. Tunnels. She had learned to fight, to hope, to lead. As they neared Korath Prime, the ship's sensors picked up patrols and defenses. Elias spoke calmly into his comm, coordinating with the team. "We approach from the east. Avoid the main gates. Our target is the holding cells below the docking bay." The team of soldiers gathered, ready for action. Among them were some veterans and fresh recruits, but all knew the stakes. Thessa's fingers tightened around the grip of her weapon. She looked at Elias. "I'm ready," she said simply. He nodded, respect in his eyes. "We all are." The dropship landed in the shadow of the massive station. Metal towers loomed overhead, shining, cold and cruel in the dim light. The team moved fast and quiet. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of oil, sweat, and fear. Thessa's memories stirred, voices crying, chains rattling. But this time, she was not alone. They reached the holding cells. Inside were hundreds of prisoners, some too weak to stand, others too scared to speak. Thessa's voice broke the silence. "I was like you," she said softly. "But I am free now. You will be too." Some prisoners looked at her with doubt, others with hope. Suddenly the alarms blared. The slavers had found them. Red lights flashed and guards poured into the corridors, weapons raised. The team split. Up. Elias took the lead, moving toward the control room to shut down the alarms. Thessa grabbed a small group of prisoners and ran through twisting hallways. Gunfire echoed behind them. The air was filled with shouting, fear, and the harsh sound of metal on metal. One prisoner tripped and fell. Thessa stopped. She knelt and helped him up. "We have to keep moving," she said. The prisoner nodded, trembling. As they moved deeper into the station, Thessa found a room filled with small cages. Inside were dozens of alien children, pale and silent. Her heart broke. She knelt and whispered, "You are not alone. I am here." One small boy reached out a trembling hand. Thessa took it. "We will get you out," she promised. She helped the soldiers unlock the cages. The children stepped out slowly, confused but safe. Meanwhile, Elias was fighting his own battle in the control room. He faced two slaver guards who tried to stop him. His weapon flashed and he knocked them back. He worked quickly to disable the alarm system. As the red lights faded, Elias sent a signal to the team. "Alarms are down. Move to extraction." The team gathered at the docking bay, prisoners in tow. But the slavers were waiting. Heavy weapons. Opened fire. Elias shouted, "Cover the prisoners! Get to the ship!" Thessa took a defensive position, firing stun blasts at the attackers. She moved with a speed and precision that surprised even herself. A guard rushed toward one of the children. Thessa stepped in, blocking him with a hard strike. "You're safe now," she said fiercely. The soldiers pushed the prisoners onto the ship. Elias covered the rear, firing steadily. Thessa helped the last child onto the ramp. As she climbed, aboard, a blast hit the ship's hull. The engines shuddered. Elias yelled, "Hold on!" The ship lifted off just as more guards arrived. Thessa sat beside Elias, breathing hard. "We made it," he said. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Back on the ship, the rescued children huddled together, holding the stones or small tokens given to them for comfort. Thessa looked at each of them and saw a reflection of herself, once broken, now fighting to live again. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "You saved many lives today," he said, quietly. She looked away, feeling small again. "I just did what I had to," she whispered. "You did more," Elias said. "You led when it mattered." The journey home was quiet but filled with thoughts. Thessa sat near a window, watching the stars. She thought of the children in cages, their faces pale but hopeful. She thought of her own dark past and how far she had come. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel proud. When they landed, back at Horizon Base, the team was greeted with cheers. The rescued were taken to safety and care. Thessa stood beside Elias, watching as the new survivors found comfort. A young girl approached her and said, "Thank you." Thessa smiled and knelt. "You're not alone anymore." That night, Thessa found Elias on the quiet deck outside the command center. She sat beside him. "Do you think I can really help more?" she asked. He looked at her, steady and sure. "You already do," he said. "The galaxy needs people like you." Thessa breathed deeply. "I want to be strong," she said. "You are," Elias replied. They sat together, the stars above shining like a promise. The days at Horizon Base grew busy with new arrivals and new challenges. The galaxy was far from safe, but hope had begun to spread like light in the darkness. Thessa had changed. She was no longer the frightened, broken slave hiding in shadows. Now she walked tall, strong, calm, and ready. Her silver-blue skin shone clean beneath the bright lights of the base. Her eyes, once dull and empty, now held fire and purpose, but her journey was far from over. News came from the Galactic Council, an alliance of many species struggling to keep peace. The Council had heard stories of the humans and their strange allies, the freed slaves who now fought back against tyranny. They invited Elias and Thessa to speak at a gathering, to share their mission and to ask for help. Thessa was nervous. Standing before powerful leaders was not like walking through a dark tunnel. This was a stage full of eyes and voices, but Elias was by her side. "You will be their hope," he told her. "Speak from your heart." The great hall was full. Aliens from dozens of worlds sat in rows, their faces serious and expectant. Thessa stepped forward. Her voice was quiet at first, but steady. "I was a slave," she began. "I was lost in darkness, forgotten by the galaxy. I believed I was worthless and filthy." She looked around the room. "But a human lifted me. He showed me I am precious, and because of him I found strength." The room was silent. She continued. "There are many still trapped in darkness, slaves hidden in shadows, waiting for someone to save them. I ask you to join us. Help us bring light to their world." The council listened, moved by her words. Many whispered to each other, some nodded. After the speech, leaders came forward to speak with Thessa and Elias. One elder, tall and wise, said, "Your courage inspires us. The council will send aid. We will stand with you." Thessa felt a warmth she had never known. For the first time, she was not alone in this fight. Back on the base, Thessa met with the rescued aliens who now looked up to her as a leader. She spoke with the young girl she had once comforted. The girl smiled brightly, her scars fading with time. "You saved me," she said. "No," Thessa replied. "We saved each other." Elias approached, watching the scene quietly. "Look how far you've come," he said softly. Thessa smiled but shook her head. "I couldn't have done it without you." He took her hand. "No, you had the strength inside all along. I only helped you see it." The next mission was planned. This time the team would take larger ships and more soldiers. They would strike hard at the slaver fleets across many worlds. Thessa was named deputy commander of the rescue forces. Her duties included planning missions, training freed slaves, and speaking to new allies. She was becoming a symbol, a light in the galaxy's darkest places. One day a new message arrived, an urgent call from a distant star system. One of the largest slaver rings had been spotted near the Arden Nebula. Elias looked at Thessa. "Are you ready?" She nodded without hesitation. "Yes. Let's end this." The warship left the base, with a fleet behind it. Humans, aliens, and freed slaves fought side by side. In the command room, Thessa stood with Elias, watching the battle unfold on the screens. Lasers flashed. Explosions shook the ships, but the fleet pushed forward. Thessa gave orders calmly and clearly, her voice strong. During the battle, one of the freighter ships was hit and trapped in enemy fire. Without hesitation, Thessa volunteered to lead the rescue team. Her small shuttle darted through the chaos, dodging blasts and debris. She reached the freighter and helped the crew evacuate safely. When her shuttle finally landed back on the command ship, Elias was waiting. "You're fearless," he said with a proud smile. She laughed softly. "I'm not fearless. I'm fighting for those who can't." After the battle, the fleet gathered for a moment of quiet. Thessa looked around at the faces, tired but hopeful. She thought of the girl who had once clung to her necklace, the children in cages, and the slaves still waiting to be free. And she knew their fight was far from over. That night, Elias and Thessa stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched across the sky like diamonds. Thessa took a deep breath. "I never believed I could stand tall." Elias smiled. "You do. You always did." She looked at him, eyes shining. "Thank you for lifting me." Elias took her hand gently. "And thank you for showing me the true meaning of strength." They stood together, ready to face whatever came next.